everyone. I'm Maritza Barone and welcome to my podcast, Things You Can't Unhear. As a presenter with a focus on wellness, I have interviewed many health professionals in my time and heard stories that have opened my eyes about the world we live in today. But I found the best bits that I take home with me and the things I heard that have changed my life are usually when the recording shuts off and we can talk in length behind the scenes. And that's the information that I want to share with you on this podcast. Today, I'm sharing something a bit more personal, my own story. I was recently asked to sit on the other side of the microphone and was interviewed by the talented and beautiful Lisa Bryant for her podcast called Self. Some of you may remember the interview I had with Lisa a couple of months ago where we talked about manifesting and morning rituals. And it was a delight to return the favor as a guest and be invited to talk with her as part of her conscious conversations. It's available to listen to on her podcast, of course, but I thought I'd share it here as well so you can learn a little bit more about me for those who may have missed it. So enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Conscious Conversations. Happy Friday, everyone. The end of a working week and feeling really good about it. What a great way to finish it off here with a Conscious Conversations episode today. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by the beautiful Maritza Barone. Good morning, Maritza.
Hello, lovely Lisa. It's so great to be here.
Oh, I tell you what, I love your name so much. The first time I heard it, I was like, that's a stage name. That girl needs to get out on stage.
My grandmother's name. 100%. I inherited it, and it's funny because I have my first, my middle name, and my last name that I was given at birth, and each of them is after a grandparent. So It's pretty intense.
So what's your maiden name with your
so it's probably every single letter of the alphabet that I have in my name. It's Maritza Constance Charalambous is my full name. And so my first name is my grandmother's name. My second name stems from one of my grandfather's names. And in the Greek tradition, you take on the Cypriot tradition, you take on the grandfather's first name as your surname. So that was my other grandfather's first name.
Wow, that is so cool. I'm so dull. Like Lisa, hate my middle name, Patricia Bryant. That's such a white girl name.
Don't.
I love Constance. That's a gorgeous middle name. I love that.
I've grown to start to love it because as a child growing up with that name, I didn't love it. I wasn't that keen. And I used to introduce myself as Marissa many times just to make it so much easier. But now I'm starting to, embrace who I am and embrace my name. And I'm really loving it now too.
I love it too. Maritza Barone. It's so happening. I'm so into it. So for all the beautiful listeners tuning into today's topic, to tell you a little bit about Maritza, she is a Melbourne-based TV presenter, radio host, producer, and the gorgeous mother of two beautiful young girls. Maritza is also the host of her recently released wellbeing podcast, Things You Can't Unhear, where she interviews leading health, wellness, and spiritual leaders. Maritza is extremely passionate about sharing people's personal journeys and visions to help others awaken to a higher level of thinking and to feed themselves with powerful knowledge that will make the world a better place. I told you she was gorgeous, everyone. I told everyone yesterday, I was like, guys, you do not want to miss tomorrow's episode. It's going to be really amazing.
It's so funny hearing that about myself because I'm usually on the other side of the coin where I'm introducing other people. And that's literally, there's an episode that I've done on my podcast is like when people must hear their bios about themselves, how good they must feel that they've achieved what they've achieved. And it's so nice to hear my own. So thank you, Lisa.
Absolutely. I actually listened to that episode that you're referring to of yours yesterday, and I was like, I can't wait to get that girl on my podcast. She's going to be, you're a very impressive woman, and I'm so grateful to have you here. So we've got a lot of things to talk about today, of which I'm really excited. So yes, the roles are most certainly reversed. And let's talk about you. So let's talk about your personal journey. And I think that one thing that we really initially bonded over was morning routine and loving our morning routine. So I really wanted to open the conversation with that today, being that this podcast was designed around morning routine. Share with the people your morning routine.
Okay, well, I'm not one of those early risers. I've come to know that about myself, that as much as I try, I am just not that morning
Doesn't
person.
work.
No, it just does not happen for me.
Mm.
And my husband is actually the complete opposite. He's been reading the 5 a.m. Club by Raman Sharma, and since then has been waking up at some ungodly hour. I think it's like between 4 and 5 a.m. and doing this series of exercise and meditation and knowledge seeking, and it's amazing. But I'm a lot different to that, and I've come to realize that that's okay, and I'm not that person. But I do have my solid morning routine that I really enjoy to do, and that's me. And because I have the bedroom to myself, because he's not in it, I tend to wake up slowly. I'm a very slow waker, and I put on a bit of a meditation while I'm still lying down in my bedroom, and I just sort of wake up slowly to that. And a lot of the times it's you, Lisa, which is really nice to wake up to your voice. So yeah, I do wake up to that. Then I also, before I even get out of bed, I run through a bit of a gratefulness list in my head of all the things that I'm truly grateful for that particular day. And I do it, sort of whisper it under my voice, or do it in my head if I feel like it. And I think I mentioned when you were on my show that one morning my kids jumped into my bed before I had time to run through my gratefulness routine, and I thought, no, I'm not missing out on this. I'm going to get them involved. And so now I've started to get them involved in listing the things that they're grateful for in the mornings as well. And we even do it at night too. I've got a little gratitude jar that we have here. We put post-it notes inside of it that, at the end of our day, we want to talk to the family about what we've done and what we're happy with and what we're grateful for on that particular day. So I think gratitude is one major thing in our lives that we need to be aware of, because taking things for granted can just be so natural. And if you're really aware of the things that that are special to you, more of it will come into your life. So I'm
Absolutely.
a big believer in that.
And what a beautiful way to start the day. I think you can't kick off you can wake up feeling terrible and feeling shit, but that's exactly right. The anecdote for that is to practice that gratitude. And what a gorgeous way to do that with your kids, because I think so many people would say, oh, I've got no time for that. I've got, kids. I can't do that. I wake up and they're in my face straight away. But I think what a beautiful way that you really encourage them into that space as well. And they're learning that dialogue from such a young age. How old are your girls, Maritza?
So yeah, I was going to say that it's a lot easier now because they're at school age. So one's 7 and one's 9. And I think when you've got babies, it's obviously a lot harder, and they obviously don't understand what you're trying to get through to them. And you're probably much more sleep deprived than I am at the moment. So I found that particular stage in my life more difficult as a parent than I do now. I feel like we're at a good stage where we can really communicate with each other well. And it's about, if I had to go back in time and look at my morning routine when I had babies, I would probably completely change that, because I was in a bit of a delirious state back then. So I think
anyone would really be. I mean, like I'm here and I can say that I haven't had children yet. So you know what I mean? But I do want to ask, when you were in that phase of being a mother with two, because they're quite early, they're quite close in age, aren't they?
Yeah, they are 2 years. Yeah.
What did that look like when you woke up of a morning and maybe you did wake up to them crying or having a bad dream or maybe not feeling very well or bouncing on your bed at 3 a.m.? What did that look like for you? When did you get into all those parents with young kids listening? When did you savor those moments of bliss for you? What did that look like for you when your children were young?
I've done a lot of self-work since then, and if I knew then what I know now, it would be a completely different story. And I've asked friends who are in this situation, who have the young children now, how do you just spend that time with yourself? And a lot of them do tell me that they make sure that they wake up earlier than the kids. Like, even if it means getting up really early, they need to have that cup of tea or that cup of coffee in silence before their children get up. And for me, it was the opposite. I'd just wait until they they cried as babies, and then I'd get up because I'd savor every single minute of sleep that I could. And I think,
well, I was going to say,
yeah.
that's a tough balance to achieve, because you're like, please, I'd rather just 5 more minutes. But then you're like, I wish I woke up 5 minutes earlier.
Yes, because, just dragging yourself out of bed and just having that 10, 15 minutes to yourself before the chaos starts I highly recommend doing that. Somehow, some way, just try and work out that 15 minutes to yourself. It's critical to your day.
Absolutely. So speaking of raising children, with you having gone through your journey of self, essentially the last few years of what you've said, what does that look like now? Your parenting from when they were a little bit younger to now, what does the language look like, the conversation? How do you handle conflict or bullying or issues at school? How do you work around those things? Talk us through what that looks like for you.
Well, I tend to ask them a lot more questions now. Sort of before I did the self-work, I would just going with the motions of it all. Now I really ask, what part of the way that I act towards you do you like? Like, I get them involved in how I parent because I want to get their opinions of how I parent. And I say to them, if you had the decision to make this choice, or, as a parent, what would you have done? So I try and get them to think about why I've said no to something or why I've said yes to something. And like, sometimes, of course, all of us are not perfect, and I do flip and I have my moments, and sometimes I'm like, I'm a complete fraud, what am I talking about? Most of the time I try to, as I said, really get them to understand why I've said something, or yes or no to something, and why I've made a particular decision. And just to get them to start sort of, like, I drop little comments along the way, and I've got little quotes around the house that sort of let them think about things in their own way. And, I'm looking at 3 now. One just says, be happy and be present. The other one says, your life is not about you. It's about everyone whose life you've touched and the way you've touched it. And then another one is talking about, do you know that it takes 30 days of feeling wonderful to manifest anything you've ever dreamed of in your life? So I get them to sort of just have these little quotes around the house. And I think slowly over time, they pick them up. Like, my eldest daughter just comes to me and says things sometimes, and I think, I've gotten through to you. Like, I'm just totally starting to get through to you.
That's the thing. Like, kids are like sponges. So what an amazing time in their life to use as an opportunity to teach them good, because knowing as soon as you reach this, you take the invitation, you accept the invitation to do the self-work. A lot of it, normally the first thing that you need to do is to really, go back into your childhood and really learn what hurt you, what you've suppressed, what's floating around in your subconscious. Pending your belief system, that could go back into healing things that have happened in past lives. But what a gorgeous way to almost be proactive to trauma is to creating that space where your girls feel really safe, and they do feel nurtured, and they do feel like they can speak about things that are happening within them. I just think it's gorgeous.
That's so true. I always talk about, why do we have to hit rock bottom in order to grow? Why can't we just grow for the pure joy of growing, rather than hitting that terrible dark point in our lives and then go, okay, now I'll wake up, now I'll change. That's what I want to try and avoid with my children. And just yesterday, actually, it's school holidays at the moment, and to avoid the boredom and to do something of substance rather than be on iPads or just watch TV, which they're begging to do all the time, I thought, I'm going to get a little act of kindness in, because I've just recently become an ambassador to the Random Acts of Kindness Foundation. And
amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cute, actually. So what we did is get some some nice pieces of paper, and wrote colourful notes to all of our neighbours, some anonymous little notes of random acts of kindness that we put into their letterboxes, just telling them that they're appreciated and they're loved, and today's going to be a good day. And the girls absolutely love doing it. They were dropping it in all the neighbours' letterboxes, and they want to do it again tomorrow. So I thought that was just a nice little way to have them give back.
That is so gorgeous. Like, I feel like all of the parents listening to this episode will just be soaking up. They'll have a pen and a paper writing all these things down, Because what a beautiful way to teach your children. And I really just want to go back on the fact that you said that you don't ever sit down and educate the kids, that you really get your girls into the conversation so they can empathize. They're learning that emotion of empathy to learn, what would I do if I was in mum's position or in dad's position? What would I do? Instead of delegating and instead of educating and feeling like you're the parent, they're the child. Children are very intelligent, very intelligent. So really giving them that space and asking them the question, I think what a gorgeous way to have your kids learn, what a safe environment to have that happen. It's just beautiful. So Maritza, I wanted to talk, this segues quite nicely. I wanted to talk about your belief system and the belief system that you grew up in. And I wanted to ask the question whether that has shifted. And if so, what did that shift into?
Sure. Look,
Pretty loaded question, I know. But I want to talk about these things because, as you would have heard on my podcast, I talk about it all the time. Religion is, and personal belief system and faith, it's the biggest reason for conflict in the world. I think this is a conversation that shouldn't be something that's scary or that we can't have or that we should be, go, oh God, no, they're talking about religion. Let's talk about it. So I want to normalize that conversation. So what does your personal belief system look like? Has it changed and how has it changed?
I grew up and was christened Greek Orthodox. And for me, I'd go to church mainly with my grandparents and sometimes with my parents on the special occasions. But I don't know if you've ever been into a Greek church, but a lot of it is, 99% of it is actually not in English. It's in Greek. So
wow.
I sort of didn't really know much about the religious system. I sort of just went along for the ride. And I was raised in an Anglican school. So for 13 years, I did go to an Anglican school and we went to church as part of that upbringing. So I did learn a lot of what was in the Bible and what it all meant. And I grew up with that around me. And I always have felt that there is definitely a higher power. And I do pray and I do believe in God. But I don't feel as though we need to go to church in order for God or a higher power to listen. I feel like God is everywhere around us, and whether it's God or whether it's the universe or whether it's angels or whatever it is, there's definitely a high power for me that I look up to. And not necessarily that doesn't necessarily have to mean I belong into some type of certain religion. There's Anglican, there's Greek Orthodox, and because I married a Catholic, there's all those three religions that are in my life. Yeah, they're all in my life. But at the end of the day, the message is the same, that there is a higher power that I look up to and that I go to for guidance. And then obviously in those points in your life when there's darkness, you're always sort of asking for help from a higher power. And for me, that gives me comfort to know that, I'm not in this alone. There's something else out there that can help me and guide me. So I'm very open to what it is. I just know that there is something that's there to guide us. And not a particular religion at all for me.
So why do you think, in your opinion, people go to church? Because there's still quite a lot of people or follow a one given faith, if you will, as a community. Why do you think that's still such a big thing in this day and age in 2019? Why do you think it's such a big thing in your opinion?
It's funny. We went to church recently because my daughter had her first communion, and I wasn't going to do it, but I was talking to my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and they really were keen on her to do it. And when we did it, I was looking around at the church and it was a Saturday night, and I was looking around at the people there, and a lot of them were alone. A lot of them looked quite lonely as well. And I think what a church does is bring you together. So it brings people together in times of need or in times of thanks. And, I do love the idea of that, but strict rules when it comes to religion I'm not a fan of. I feel like we need flexibility and to embrace all people. And I know a lot of churches and religions don't allow certain things. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the rules, to be honest. And when I think about why other people choose a certain religion. It's obviously something that's been instilled in them as they've grown up as well, and something that they've been sort of taught as a child. But I think if we all just stand back and allow ourselves to listen to what's going on within, I think that's when we'll get the true answers.
I think that's beautifully said. Yeah. Amazing. And you know what? I grew up in a Catholic household myself. I was an altar server even. So quite in the Catholic church community here. And I got to say, like, I've been pretty open in the fact that I believe and I love listening to all the faiths and all the different religions, but I'm very similar to yourself in the way that I believe it's quite an individual thing, and we all have individual faiths and we're here as individuals. But I definitely agree with that community aspect of coming together. And I even still, Christmas, I love going to church because it's celebrating Christmas. What an exciting time, you know. So I actually love going to church in those holidays and moments and big things like that, because it's basically just creating that human connection, which I think is great. And I kind of switch off, you know, through it. I just love being with a body of people, really. So it's funny, isn't it?
It is. I'd love to know why you think, listen to me, the interviewer, I'd love to know why you think people choose certain religions.
Yeah, well, I think, as you said, a lot of people, it's how you've grown up. So it's always the case. It's evolution. Your parents teach you what they've learned. You make the decision whether you want to carry that on, whether you like it or not, or you make the conscious choice to let it go and to do something, to live your life the way that is correct for you. And that's essentially what I've done. I made it very clear to my family that I don't identify as a Catholic anymore, and I'm on my own individual path, but I love hearing all the stories. In my personal belief system, I do believe that ascended masters like Jesus and Buddha, etc., that they very well did exist, but I do believe them to have been just very highly conscious people, no different to the Dalai Lama or Oprah, people that lived their life in full consciousness, and people looked up to them and was like, wow. And I think that they were placed on this earth to encourage others to evolve their personal journey of within and knowing who they are. But instead, people have created stories, and I think a lot's like fluffed around the edges with those stories as well in my belief system. But you know, people look to them as a story of inspiration opposed to taking it on for themselves. They look at them in devotion, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I think it's all very fascinating, if I'm honest. And I also live my life with the reason that I don't think you should make anyone wrong. I just think it's important to ask the question, you know, because it is very, very interesting, isn't it? Just how different we all are, yet we're all the same. Because a lot of faiths, they're exactly the same. It's basically the same skeleton, just different wording, really. So that there's got to be something said for that. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. No, I love how you totally define that perfectly. And I'm on the same page as you. I think we're all individual, and we just got to be open to what other people are feeling.
Absolutely. All right, let's speed things up a little bit here. Different corner of the conversation of where I wanted to go with this one as well. But although I do love chatting about that, don't get me wrong. Flipping a page to another topic, I want to talk about, obviously we met in the Channel 9 studios in Melbourne when we were filming for a show there. And so we work in entertainment with the both of us. And I want to talk about as well, because you seem to have this side of yourself that's very entertainment focused and based. How do you keep that balance of your true self and staying present and staying pure, basically, in the entertainment industry, which is so surface level? We love it, but it is very surface level. Yeah. How do you maintain that healthy balance? What does that look like for you?
The entertainment industry is a very interesting industry, isn't it? It's just, you really need to get a thick skin if you want to be involved in this industry, because there's a lot of rejection time after time, and you have to get comfortable with the fact that there is rejection over and over and over again. And it's just taken me until recently to understand that rejection wasn't a bad thing, because it just meant that I was continuing to put myself out there and get out of my comfort zone. So I see it now as a good thing that I've received this rejection, because it's gotten me to where I am today, and I think it's great. So with my entertainment career, you know, I've been presenting for about 10 or 12 years now, and it came to a point about, you know, 2 years ago when I thought, what is this? What am I doing this for? What's the purpose?
Who am I?
Why am I just being handed scripts in order to read them or interview questions or anything? I was just being handed pieces of paper to learn and to almost just spit out. And I thought, what is the deeper meaning of this? Why am I wanting to do this so badly? And I went right back to the beginning, right back to when I was a 17-year-old girl. And I remember we were at school and a school counselor was coming around and asking everyone what they wanted to do, and they left school. And I felt my heart just beating in my chest because I was like, oh God, now I'm going to have to tell her what I want to do. And I was the last one in my friendship group that she came around to. And deep inside my heart, all I wanted to say was, I just want to be like Oprah Winfrey. I want to stand on stage and I want to interview people and I want to share inspiration. But as a 17-year-old quiet little girl that I was back then, I absolutely buckled. And when she came around to me, all I said was, I would like to do marketing, I think. And
couldn't be further. Couldn't be further from what you're in yourself.
That was such a defining moment for me, because for the next 10 years, I literally went and got a marketing degree and did different jobs that were not what I wanted to do. And I just felt I wasn't, I just felt like I wasn't able enough to actually pursue what I wanted to do at that particular time. So it took me 10 years to realize that, okay, now wake up, go and get in front of go and get in front of people and start learning this craft if you want to achieve this dream. So then I spent the next 10 years, trying to perfect myself on camera and learning all the skills that I needed to be a presenter. And then I got to that point where I was talking about before, where I was like, okay, now I've done that. What am I doing? What's this all for? Where's the deeper meaning? And that's when I really started to think, okay, I've got to get out there, but how am I going to do it? And the beauty of my podcast that I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 months has really allowed myself the ability to creatively express what I have inside me and to interview the people that have lit me up over the last 4 or 5 years and just share their stories. And now, from what I've learned through this personal development that I've been doing, is that I can now have enough knowledge to start to inspire other people with what I've learned. And I've never felt so content with where I am as a speaker and as a presenter and as a host as to what I am now, because I'm actually talking about things that mean something to me, that are important to me. So
I can relate. I'm just sat here going, yes. Like it's so true. And you know what? I was actually thinking about it the other day. The reason I'm exactly the same with you. I've just gone for a major position in the entertainment industry on radio, waiting to hear back, pending.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm thinking, wow, isn't this fascinating that now I'm going for this role, yet I've been doing my podcast, daily episodes, for the last almost 6 months, which has just flown. I'm almost halfway through the year. I committed a year of doing daily episodes, and going for this role now, which is really jumping into the entertainment industry again. I feel so grounded within myself. I'm not looking for that person to be like, please pick me. I'm the best for the job. Please, like I'm desperate, which I think it's the nature that comes with, please pick me, like I'm good for this, because so many people can do your job. But I mean, that's the entertainment industry's kind of self-talk, but it's not. There's only one you. And I kind of went into that role yesterday when I was doing my demo going, I'm me. I know what I bring to the table. I'm bloody quality. Let's see if
you're lucky to have me.
Yeah, basically. Obviously not being being arrogant, but just going like, I know what I bring to the table. Is this what you're looking for? If it's not, great. Like I know.
It's you know what it is. It's you've surrendered now. So you've like, I've got all the skills that I need. I know who I am, and now I surrender this. And if it comes my way, then it comes my way. I remember when we first spoke about your podcast, and we were both talking about the fact that because we launched at a similar time. I think you launched a little bit before me, but you said to me, Maritza, I feel so rich from doing this. I feel like I'm earning so much money by doing this. And it was really early stages. And, at that point in time, you weren't earning
nothing.
Money from
I don't earn anything for it. I still don't.
and you still feel so rich, right?
I still feel so rich, so rich. I can't even believe it. It's crazy. Isn't it incredible though? I feel like we've had a very similar path in that aspect. And I just feel so grateful knowing that we have spoken other people's scripts for so long, like creating your own content and producing it in a way that you want. What an incredible feeling. Don't you feel rich right now?
Absolutely. And you know what? Being creatively blocked is probably one of the most frustrating feelings. You almost feel like you're about to explode because you've got all of this goodness inside of you ready to go, and you're sitting there waiting for someone to back you before you can start. Well, you know what? We took a step forward and we just started. And
that is so true. Well said.
Yes. Yep. And it feels good. So
it feels
if anyone out
good.
there who's in the same boat, like just start, just find a way to start. And, even if it doesn't look like a major production at the start, well, it'll get there. Just make sure you start talking and start getting the flow happening.
Well said, Maritza. Absolutely. Go girl. And let's on that, let's keep talking about your podcast. I love it. I listen to it all the time. Weekly episodes. It's called Things You Can't Unhear. I think you've launched it 3-4 months ago now.
It was on the 19th of March.
Oh, excuse me. Should have remembered that date specifically, 19th of March. Tell the people what your podcast is about.
Sure. Well, it's about opening people's eyes to knowledge that they may not have heard before that will potentially unstick them from a particular situation in their lives. So like I said earlier, I don't want people to have to hit rock bottom before they can say, okay, now I'm going to make a change. Now I'm going to have to build myself up from nothing again and find out who I am. And I want to just open people's hearts and minds to ideas that they hadn't thought of before, or maybe just be another person to make them hear it again, to say, you know what, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to live life to the fullest. I'm going to be grateful for every moment, and I'm going to be inclusive of everyone, and just, we're here for 80, 90 years if we're lucky. Let's just make the most of that time and not waste it being someone else, and not be, following what we see in the media and on ads and all of these bombarded messages that are thrown at us, and, us trying to be who we think we are, we think society wants us to be, but just actually learn how to be who we want to be and who's inside of us. So I really, I've spent the last 4 months finding people, and it's just been such a natural progression of who's been on my show. It's sort of just, I'm allowing people to sort of come to me, and, I'll read an article and be inspired, and then, I'll reach out, and that's something, it's a little bit selfish because I'm always almost like feeding myself with knowledge at the same time. Like it's that particular thing that I want to learn about, blocks of energy, for example. Exactly. Yeah. I'll find someone out there who talks about that. And if I want to find out about nutrition, then I'll find someone out there who can teach us about that. So I think, it's a holistic view of, just unsticking yourself and learning new things in life to enhance your life for the best.
And I think that is a really great overall way of describing how all of your guests are linked, because all of your guests seem to really stand within their light. I think that's the similar, excuse me, I was a guest. I'm like, they just stand within their light. But it is true. All of these people that you've had on your show, I find aren't afraid to be vulnerable, aren't afraid to show up as themselves. And I really think that's such a powerful message to be sending to your listeners, going, what's inside of you that you aren't allowing out. And I think you've had such an amazing, because the diversity of your listeners, of your guests have been incredible. You've had the gentleman from America as well, nutritionist.
Welsh, yeah.
Oh my God, I'm terrible with names, Maritza. Honestly, terrible. You had energy clearing this week. I just think things like this, like, what was the lady's name as well? She was a medium. You had nutrition.
Kim Vanderhoven.
Yeah, fascinating topics for anyone that is wanting to really, it's, as I said, quite a diverse range of guests. So you've really got something in there for everyone, and it really says it right there in the title as well. But some really good, easy, educational listening in these podcasts. I absolutely love them. I really look forward to them every week. You launch them on Sundays, don't you?
Well, yeah, I get a bit excited sometimes, actually, Lisa, and I sort of just launch them when I have them, because sometimes I launch 2 in a week because I get so excited. I just can't sit on them. I need to share, and I just feel like the information needs to get out there. But I get very excited with the messages that come from these interviews.
Yeah, I'll bet. Oh, honestly, Maritza, you're such a wonderful woman, and I love connecting with people that are out there that are just here to give back and to encourage evolution in the world and healing. And I just think what a wonderful way to do that in the practice that you're doing with your podcast, and just the way that you are encouraging and teaching your children. I just think it's incredibly powerful.
Oh,
Bravo.
Thank you. And you know what? Like, the podcast is the first step, and I'm pushing myself again out of my comfort zone. I can't just continue to do a podcast forever. So I am going to continue to push myself out of my comfort zone at least once a day, which is what I've been taught in my reading. And, public speaking's always been a scary thing for me, but I'm putting myself out there and doing some live events in the coming months as well, and ripping that band-aid off, getting right in front of physical people, not just a microphone or a camera. It can be a completely different ball game. So there's going to be a bit of a things you can't unhear live event coming up soon.
Here for that. Can we share any more information, or is everything kind of under wraps?
It's early stages at the moment, but I will let you know when we have the information, and hopefully you can share it with your listeners too.
100%. I'm there as well.
Awesome.
Send me the link where to get tickets.
Flying you down to Melbourne.
Yes. I don't need an excuse to go down there, but it would be amazing to see you as well. Maritza, I really enjoyed our time here together today, and I wanted to finish up this conversation with a bit of a playful 5-point questionnaire, just to polish off our time here together and for the listeners to really learn more about you. So I've got 5 questions for you here. Yes. It's fun. I'm enjoying it.
Fun, scary, same thing.
fun, scary. Let's do it. Number 1, what does self-love look like to you?
Self-love to me would be finding that quiet time just to reflect on who you are. And again, gratitude is literally finding time just to be grateful.
Oh, I love that. Acknowledging the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Number 2, when you need to unwind, where do you go? What do you do?
I'm a bit of a tea addict, so I make myself a beautiful cup of chai, and I sit quietly in my home when no one's here. I make sure that that's the time, or I'll go for a walk if they are here, and I will just disconnect to everything. So no sound, and just spend time in silence, either meditating, walking, sitting in silence, having a cup of tea, whatever you want to do to quiet the mind, because I have a bit of a monkey mind. That's what I do in order to calm that mind down.
I feel calm just listening to you. That sounds great. Number 3, what is your favorite way to sweat?
Oh, I'm obsessed with Bodhi and Ride, which is a spin studio in Port Melbourne here. And I've been doing it for it's so good. And, it's dark room, flashing lights, pumping tunes, and like this fit toned instructor in front of us who's like screaming inspirational quotes at you. It's so beautiful. I absolutely love it. I'm not an exercise person until I found that place, and it's changed my life. So I do about 3 classes a week now. And it's
go girl.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone that cycles has a body, like just this incredible body. Like, it's a great way to get fit, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not even about fitness. Like, you literally walk out of there, you've pushed yourself so hard, and you're just like, I am on top of the world. I've just smashed it for the last 45 minutes, and I am on top of the world for the next hour, and I'm going to go and have the best breakfast ever because I deserve it.
Yeah, 100%. And 3 coffees. Thank you very much. I'll take the croissant to go. Number 4, how do you stay positive?
Gratitude. It's always back to gratitude. I've had a bit of a past with dealing with not suffering, because I've heard your episode about suffering with anxiety, but dealing with anxiety since I was a teenager, on and off. And staying positive is a huge aspect to not having that flare up. And so being present, I mean, anxiety is obviously caused by what you're thinking about the past or the future. And if you're focused on staying present, then that can really ease that anxiety flaring up. So yeah, I think just being in the moment is key for me. Absolutely. And we've just got to keep reminding ourselves to do it over and over again.
Keep reminding ourselves, because so many people are like, I just can't do that. I'm not there with that. It's like, it's a practice. It's a practice for a reason. It's a habit. You don't need to get it even right the 100th time you do it. Be patient with yourself. And I think gratitude, I love that you're talking so much about it, because so simple, so effective, so practical to list even 3 things that you're grateful for in this moment. The breath, your breath, surroundings, this life. Done. And it's the real antidote for any kind of depressive or anxious thoughts. It pulls you focus into the center now and gets you into the reality and not into what your mind's creating to be reality, which is false.
I had a friend come to me a few months ago, probably about 6 months ago now, and her partner had broken up with her and she was completely shattered and depressed and down. And, they thought they were getting married, and then he's decided he's calling it all off. And she was in this really horrible place and came over to see me. And I said, I know that this is a terrible time for you, but just every morning you need to wake up and think about 5 things that you're grateful for. And she's like, I'm not grateful for anything right now. Like, she was really dirty and dark on life at that particular time. She's like, I can't think of one thing that I'm grateful for. And I'm like, well, be grateful for the situation itself, because in 6 months' time, you're going to be so happy that this happened, because it wasn't the right position that you were in. And it just so happens that I'm right. And
yeah.
she has found happiness, and she truly believes that was now not the right place that she was meant to be in, and has found love somewhere else, and is a completely different person because has spent the last 6 months truly finding who she was and not fitting into who she thought he wanted her to be. So, just being grateful for the situation itself can be so powerful.
100%. And it is often the hardest thing is just, I know those moments. You get in those moments, I'm not grateful for anything right now. It's like spoiled little brat mode, really. It is spoiled little brat mode.
Sometimes you just want to feel miserable and just, lap it up.
100%. And that feels good. Just take 5 minutes, check out, be miserable, but then know that there is so much waiting for you here when you're ready to get back. So as you said, making that choice. So that's good advice. And number 5, last question. If you had the whole world's attention, what would you say?
Wow, that's a huge question. Right, what would I say if I had the whole...
Right. What would I say?
Who is listening to me? Look, I would just tell everyone to accept one another and try not to judge what they don't understand, or try not to judge at all, and allow people to just be who they are without criticism from the outside world, and just love each other. I mean, I know that sounds so cliche, but just look at everything with love. And if it helps you make a decision, if there's 2 decisions that you need, if there's a decision that you need to make, choose the feeling that feels like love the most. And I think you can't go wrong with that.
Can't go wrong with that. Ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful Maritza Barone, thank you so much for your time today. Beautiful lady. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. It was a pleasure.
And if you would like to connect with Maritza, you can find her across on Instagram at Maritza_Barone. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. Have a beautiful Friday, and I'll see you back here tomorrow morning.